What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips. And before we get into it, let's hit that like and subscribe button so that way we're abreast of all the dope content I'm bringing all week long. And let's get into it in a menudo style in a direct fashion. As you can see today, by that thumbnail, we're about to profile. I'm going to speak on, one of my good friends, man. Someone who I consider a good friend. We had our ups, we had our downs. His life was a roller coaster. But my interactions with him, the stories, the memories, the things I know about this individual, I can't knock him, All I can say is at the end of the day, man, he truly was a soldado for his cause. Whatever the cause was, however it ended up, however he ended up. And I know he continues to strive and struggle. He's now doing life in prison. But that ultimately was his fate. That ultimately was the way things, I guess, were supposed to be. When you're living a certain lifestyle, man, and you're taking the initiative to really be about what you say you're about, then ultimately you're going to end up either dead, in jail for life, prison, or even worse, man. Worse things could happen. You can live within yourself and suffer. The torturous ways of the things that you've done, you torture your mind is gone. And in this case, in this profile today, we're going to talk about one Badboy de Sacra, Barrio Franklone Boulevard, 36th Street. One of the smoothest, grimiest, grittiest, vicious characters I ever met along my path in my journey. So here we go. Michael Toro, man. Badboy de Sacra, 36th Street. Up until the point of meeting him, I had never heard of this barrio. And after meeting him and hearing and meeting a lot of other people hearing about this neighborhood, come to find out, it is one of the most notorious and oldest barrios in Sacramento, in Sacra. You meet a lot of the brothers out of Sac, and they're going to say Sac or Sac Town. You meet Norteños, Sureños, they're going to say Sacra. That's just what it is. That's the slang word, Sacra meaning Sacramento. I've always said Sacramento's a little bit different. They wiggle a different way. They have their own mentality, their own mind state in Sac. I've always compared Sac to Chirac, to Chicago, because they're different, man. They play by their own rules and regulations. It's a bigger city. It's the capital of California. And they put their stamp on it. They got a lot of inner warfare going on. A lot of barrio to barrio warfare, kind of like Los Angeles. They do it amongst their own. Red on red has never been a big thing there. They've done it. Blue on blue, red on red. It doesn't matter. They have their particular side on who they band together with, who they form allies and who they're not allies with. And that's just how Sacramento's always wiggled. But up into meeting this guy, Badboy the Sac, I never really knew the politics and the history of Sacramento because I never really went out to Sac. I kind of was stuck in my own bubble in the Central Valley, in the 209 area, Modesto, Merced, Madera, Fresno. But then as I met new people from different places, being incarcerated as a youngster in CYA, that's where I could really say, honestly, I met a lot of gente from everywhere. I met gente all the way from San Bernardino, San Diego, LA, all the way up to Sacramento, Ukiah, Chico, Fremont. I mean, the list can go on. And I could sit here all day naming individuals that I met, but we're not here to name names like that. I'm just here to tell you the story and the profile of one Mr. Michael Toro. I will say that name. I hold it dear to my heart. He will always be forever a memory in my memory book. He'll forever always be a norteño, a soldado that I met on my journey. So our first interaction was Fred C. Nellis in the Youth Authority. And I remember, man, we were doing dirt bad. And when I say dirt bad, I mean, we were there I was there for about 6-7 months. When I say we, it's the busload that I went up there with, which was the second busload ever to land in Fred C. Nellis. And we get there and, a lot of guys fell off. A lot of guys stopped gangbanging. A lot of guys had different mindsets. You couldn't dictate the program of everybody. You didn't know. We were just a whole bunch of scared youngsters in no man's land. Okay, we were there and you either were going to be with the business or you weren't. That's just it, plain and simple. There was it was cut and dry. There was no in between. But there were some guys that were playing that role. They'd gangbang one day, they'd stop the next. They'd fucking be a church guy one day. Next thing you know, they want to stab someone. There were guys that were doing that. It seemed like a lot of the individuals from Northern California, they had a different mindset. A lot of them were in survival mode. I was in survival mode myself. It was kind of just like, do what you got to do to maintain, do what you got to do to live. But at the same time, man, you got to a point where you weren't going to take nobody's shit. You know, you were tired of being jumped on or snaked on or you know what I mean, fucking told you couldn't do this. And a lot of us stood in defense of our beliefs. You know, we already knew what time it was. We were in a struggle and a fight to get back up north. That's just what it was. Everybody was trying to get transferred out. But we were going to have to do what we had to do. We were going to have to maintain while we're there. You had to show face for your people. There was no way we could just lay it down and let people walk all over us, because best believe the Sureños were. That's their whole intention, was to have us lay down arms, to have us conform to what they wanted us to do. And that was it. At that time, my mindset was no. You know, hell no, we won't go. We're going to fuck. If we're going to leave, we're going to take a body with us. And that's it. Plain and simple. But there was very few of us. And I remember it was almost to the point of like, I had to sit back and think like, damn, man. You know, it seemed like every busload that pulled up, because there was about another couple busloads that pulled up, Vatos were just bammer weed, man. Straight just garbage. You know, nothing but garbage was pulling up. Vatos were stopping gangbanging right off the bus. We were being let down tremendously. And we needed everyone we can get. You know, you need every soldier, every spoke in that Dayton, because believe me, that's the only way you shine right. You got to get your mind right. And then a bus pulls up. You know, and this bus pulled up with Badboy de Sacra. I remember, and several others, Soldier Boy from Stockton, and other guys that I've mentioned. And they were different. They were more seasoned. They were coming from different institutions up north. They had already been in the youth authority, some of them several times. Some of them were on violations. They had been around the block. So they came with a different mentality. They came with the mentality to get off. You know, they weren't going to go out like that. They came with that mentality to make it their own, to establish, which is what we were always taught, even as youngsters. It doesn't matter where you're sent or where you go, you establish. So when I met Badboy from Sacra, he pulled up with that mentality. And I remember this guy always had a slick, sly smile, always smiling. And I always wondered, hey, bro, what, you know, where's your mind at? Do you know where we're at, homie? You know, I was very aware, even as a young kid, man. I was like, hey, bro, you know, I was very pessimistic back then. Now I'm optimistic. But back then I was like, damn, we're in trouble, eh? We're in LA, right? We were in Whittier, Southeast Whittier Boulevard. I'll never forget. And he had a smile and he was like, this is video game shit, bro. This is fun. This is what you should strive for. You know, when you want to be a gangbanger and you want to be involved and in the mix, man, this is what you strive for. This is what we do it for. He's like, out in Sac, homie, this is target practice. This is cool. It doesn't matter where I'm at. That was his mindset. Didn't matter where he was at, where they sent him. He was going to get his. Whether if they took him out in a motherfucking stretcher or a coffin or however he left this world, he was going to get his doing it. And I remember people started to take notice, you know, and he started to pump me up. I wasn't a pump up case, but I was definitely pumped up by the way that his aura was. No Wes Watson, not the fucking aura waking everyone up. I'm talking about the aura of a real one. Someone who went with the mentality like, hey, homie, yes, we're outnumbered. Yes, we're outmanned. Yes, we're outgunned. Yes, we don't got pedazos like everyone else, homie. But guess what, homie? We got bed springs, weapon stock, and we can sharpen shit. Let's do it. And there were several others like him, Spooky the Salas, and of course, Boo the Stockton. Just homeboys that were down with the program, definitely. And I slid right in the mix because these were guys that I was striving for. This was why I was sacrificing and why I was going to the school area, getting jumped on. And I was doing it for the gente. You know, we always talk about this cause and our people, but you're no greater than the people around you. That's true canalismo. The ones that ride with you, that is the cause. We are fighting for each other to sustain, homie, to live. That was our mentality. He came with that. He brought that. And he definitely showed leadership qualities. He was one of our leaders there. You know, we didn't have shot callers or people that called cuetes and told us what to do. But he was definitely someone we looked towards as a leader because he had a different mentality. And that mentality was, I don't give a fuck, Combs. You know, we're going to do whatever we have to do and we're going to smile while doing it. I'll never forget it. I mean, we went through a lot. Our struggles were real. And he gave me a big rundown, man, on the city of Sacramento. And he'll forever be a soldado from Sacra in my mind, no matter what standings he's in or where he's at in life. And we're going to get to that. But we got separated. I remember, but I'm going to tell you a quick story. I remember us getting to a compa, man. They had us go to a compa called Madison, the Madhouse. This was one of the compas, one of the buildings where everybody was about it. You know, one of those places where they would release, you know, basically the shoe there, which was Nixon or Taft. They would release to Madison and everyone there was like either a shot caller or someone who had respect, someone who ran compas. Vatos that were really with the wigglization, right? And we were there. We pulled up there And I remember Badboy went in there trying to punk everyone for their seats, their chairs, trying to fight everyone. And you think to yourself, there's no way a Norteño would do that. Well, he did, man. I'm here to tell you that's facts. You know, he went in there with that type of mind state that he was going to do what he wanted to do. And wasn't no one going to tell him different. And we trooped right on behind him. And we stood there for a couple years, man, handling our business. And that guy right there, he had major hands back then. He was bigger, more physically fit. He was knocking people out. He definitely was handling his business. You win some, you lose some, but he never denied or turned down a fade. We weren't allowed to. You know, you either had to take it. There was no other option. You just take the fade. You straight up. And there was a lot of fades to be distributed and handed out. There was an abundance of them. It was like a fade buffet, man. You can get all you can eat. Definitely. And then I remember the day that they shipped him out. And it wasn't him requesting to be shipped out or piecing up or asking. It was just different strokes for different folks. It was just the drawing of the straws, man. The administration felt that it was time for him to go up north. And they sent him to a place called Carl Holton, which was in Stockton. And I remember hearing about it. Hey, guess what, man? A fucking Badboy landed in Carl Holton. And I was like, damn, we lost a good one here. And it started to thin out, started to be watered down. Some of the Norteños that were coming to Nellis didn't have that same mentality, man. It was like The Walking Dead, homie. Only the strong survive, and they took Rick from us, right? So I had to get my Darylization on, and I had to do what I had to do with my crossbow, right? So I'm there fighting in no man's land, you know, amongst a gang of oppositions by myself with just a few stragglers and a few good homeboys. I'm not going to sit here and talk shit about all the homies because there were some good ones there. And then I caught my ticket. And I ended up going to Preston for a while. And that's when the whole bulldog shit started, man. And it was us against the dogs. And, you know, we did what we did. And eventually, after about 6-7 months there, almost 8 months, they shipped me from there. And I was in Greenbrier. I went from Cedar to Greenbrier. From Greenbrier, was in Ironwood for a minute. Did a little time in fucking, you know, the dungeons there, Tamarack. And then, bam, they shipped me to Carl Holton. Well, upon pulling up to Carl Holton is where I meet up with Badboy the Sacra again. We happened to be on the same building called Mona Hall, which was a J-Cat ass hall. That's why they sent us there, because we was a little bit cattish, right? They sent me and him there. I pull up. He's like, Skinner dog, right? He's all happy. I pull up. And that's where our friendship really started to cement itself. That's when we really had time to talk. And we had that in what we had in common, because Badboy was an asshole. I'm going to be real with you. He was a bully. He liked to bully other homies. He liked to punk homeboys, drop homeboys leva. He just had that mentality, man. It was a strong survive, you know, survival to the fittest. If he felt that you were slacking and you're macking, that at any time, Holmes, that you showed a little bit of victim mentality, he was going to victimize you. It's what he was. That was what he came with, you know. He was a good homeboy, solid, down to fight anyone, down to hold it down for the cause. But at the same time, Holmes, he'll drop you leva like that. He wasn't playing. That's where we started to cement our friendship. We became inseparable. He was a good ass homeboy, and what we had in common was that we both went through that struggle down south together. Not a lot of people can say they did that. We did. And we chilled. And I remember he was getting about a year to the gate. And I'm going to tell you about one removal we had to do. And I've spoke on it before. It was me, him, and Shorty the Salas, Casitas. There was a guy there, man. We had hit for cigarettes. We had hit for some frajos. And I remember... you know, one of our rules was no dealing with the white boys. And the reason we weren't dealing with the white boys is these white boys had got into it with the Norteños a few times. There was a little stronghold of white guys, and usually you didn't see that in YA. But they were up north, you did. Down south, you didn't. They were a little bit thicker. So there was about 5 or 6 of them on the compa. Really wasn't a threat, but we just didn't like them, right? And rather than just get off on them, there was no excuse to get off on them. We just didn't mix with them. They did their thing. They kind of kicked it with the Southsiders. And if something jumped, we already knew who they would back up. And it was what it was. There was Bulldogs over there in their corner, Norteños, we were the deepest, Southsiders, and then the Whites. The brothers kind of just did their own trip. We were cool with the brothers, though. And anyways, one of the Norteños from Delas, from Delano, West Side Delano, was selling them frajos. We had told him on numerous occasions not to be dealing with these white dudes. He still did it. Quietly as his cat, when push came to shove, he got pushed and shoved, right? Me, the homeboy Shorty, and of course Badboy walked into his cell. And I started to break the cell down. Breaking the cell down was I was putting everything up, you know, on the bunk, giving us room because we're about to plaquear him. We're about to drop him leva. And we got off. And I remember Badboy going up to him and you know, just punking him and getting crazy. And I was looking at Badboy, and at that moment, I seen a different mentality there. I seen something I didn't like. And what I seen was, instead of giving the homeboy, and I mean, I went in there with the same mindset. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't. You know, we already had decided that it was enough was enough. We gave this guy numerous chances, but still, the intensity and the aggression that he came with, man, I could see that there was a screw loose, man. He was trying to body this motherfucker, right? And I guess that's what you're trying to do when you're removing someone. You're trying to catch that body, but it wasn't that serious. This guy had less than a year to go to parole, months to parole, and still he rocked like that. I guess you say that's a soldado. I guess people will say, well, that's a real one. And that's what it is, man. I guess you're real up into the last second, huh? But I remember we got off, did our thing. I ended up going to the hole for it. I took that one on the chin for the homies, and then that was that. I ended up coming back. Badboy ends up paroling a few months later. And so the story is that he paroles, man, and, you know, he gets out and he's doing what he's doing in Sacra. And I remember everywhere I went and every homeboy I met from SAC in the youth authority, I would tell him, hey, you met the homeboy fucking Badboy. He was the first one, you know, I would speak on, you met the homeboy Badboy, you met the homeboy Badboy. I met a lot of good vatos from Franklone, Dopey, Carrot, a lot of individuals from Gardens, from Central, just a lot of homeboys from Sacra, Northside Sacra, Lane, real righteous ones, right? But I would tell him, hey, you know, Badboy, oh yeah, Bads, that's the homeboy, Big Bads, man, yeah, Bads. He had a good name. He had respect, but a lot of people say that motherfucker's crazy, homie. That motherfucker's a J-calf. Oh, that fool's crazy. He's with the business. And he was. You know, I could personally tell you, I knew him as a personal friend. He was, man. He was different. Like I said, he was the type of guy that he looked through. He was on his Michael Myers shit, homie. He's the blackest eyes. He looked right through you. He was always like that. So I guess, you know, we grew up. We both get out of YA. He gets out a couple years before me. He's doing what he's doing in SEC. I'm doing what I'm doing in Merced. We're living. We're doing prison in and out. And I'm hearing about him here and there. The homeboy Badboy, you ever heard? Yeah, he's doing a little time. He gets out. Anyways, he gets out and something happens and his brother is killed in front of him. And he was very close to his brother Flacco. When this happened, this drove him crazy. You know, and it's sometimes when you're a certain way, you already have it in you. It's already instilled in you, that craziness, that I don't give a fuck attitude, right? And it takes something traumatic to bring it out. And it definitely brought it out in him. And I guess he went 51-50, man, and started murking people. Ultimately, he does catch life. He's now doing life in prison as we speak. And I've heard a lot of stories about him, you know, a lot of he said, she said. And I don't know. I don't know what to be the truth and what to not be. One thing I know is, you know, the time that I did with him, I seen it coming. He was destined to do all day. There's people that they're destined to do the duration. I thought I was one of those guys destined to do that. But I always had a different mentality. See, there was always a soft spot in my heart for people, man. I always regretted things that I did. They say you're not supposed to regret life, and I don't regret life, but I regret taking life, or I regret making people go through hardships in life. I guess that's been my spoiler. I guess that's why I am the way I am. It's because I always had a soft spot in my heart for the opposition or for my own people. I wanted to see my people prosper, but not the bad way, the easy way or the good way. But I understand in life, everything ain't fucking daisies and roses. It just ain't that way. Sorry, man. Sometimes you have to be that bad one on the block. Sometimes you have to have that killer attitude. He definitely was one of those. And that's why he's sitting down doing life, and I'm not. But I've heard that he's changed. I've heard that he's lost it, that his mentality is not there. Now, you know, a lot of people have spoken bad upon his name. I heard an interview. He did an interview with one YouTuber a few years back, and it didn't sound like the same person. It sounded like a whole different individual, and I couldn't believe it. And I guess he did lose his mind, like several people have told me. You know, we stay in communication. A lot of us that did time back in Youth Authority, we grew up. Some are dead, some are doing life. But those that are still around, man, we try to communicate the best way we can. You know, if we run into each other over the phone, whether it be text messages, talking, whatever the case may be, you know, we always have that bond, that brotherly bond, no matter what, can never be taken from us, no matter what people say. And, you know, I've only heard like, wow, man, we lost homeboy Bads, you know. But no, you know, you don't lose the memories. You don't lose the realness. No one could ever take the history and the memories away from things that we've done, man, and places we went and how we handled our business. I'll forever be indebted to Badboy, the Franklone, man, 36th Street, for showing me, you know, exactly what a real Sacramento norteño was, man, because he personified that. You know, that's the truth. That's facts. You know, I know in life, man, it's an ugly situation when you see people get caught up and I don't wish death or life upon, you know, life in prison upon no one, man. And to see a guy that I actually, you know, had respect for, I showed love to, I had love for doing that, man. It hurts the heart to see him go through these hardships. But such is life, man. That's the life we're living. You know, let's really think about this shit. There's youngsters, 18, 19, 17, 18, 19 years old, that catch life in prison. They never get to experience push. They don't get right. They never get to experience living. You know, living like walking on the beach, going to the ocean. They don't get to experience going on family vacations, you know, paying your rent, homie. You know how good it feels to pay your rent? You feel like a man when you pay that fucking rent, eh? You know what I mean? You feel like a man when you open that refrigerator and grab a steak and defrost that motherfucker to throw on the grill. These are things that they're never going to experience, and a lot of us take it for granted. Oh, I don't give a fuck, homie. This is the barrio for life. It is what it is. Oh, it is what it is. Eat a sopa and shut the fuck up, right? Because there's a lot of the gente that's doing life, man, that are going through those hardships right now that wish they were in your place, that wish that they could switch roles, man. He's a vato, you know, that I know, although he lost it, man, and he always had that mentality to be out there really thugging. He had a soft spot too, and the little soft spot is he liked to live life. We all did. That's why he always had a smile, homie. He was just caught up in that situation. You know, Sacramento's a different place, homie. It breeds killers. It breeds wigglers. It breeds real ones, man. That's just how it is. And it breeds people with a whole different mentality. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there in Sacra. Them vatos will bop you in your head over a gram. They ain't playing, you know. Anyways, man, Michael Toro, man, Badboy the Sacra. You know, I'll forever remember him. And I just wanted to shed some light and give him his flowers and put some words on his name, man. I know I've done other spills where I've mentioned him and I've talked about him. I even did a spill where I said, man, the word on the curb was that he don't flip-flop, that he done went, a different route, right? And I don't know, man. You know, that's the word on the curb. I'll still forever have respect for him. Still, he's a Sacramento king in my eyes, man, because he's the one that laced me up on what the mentality of Sacra was and what the mentality of Sacra is. And that's just it. He still gets a lot of respect from a lot of OGs, man. And the ones that disrespect him, they don't really know what they're dealing with. That dude right there was a monster. That's facts. But there's even Sureños down south in LA that got love for bads. That's how it really was. With that being said, I hope that you move with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming to you. And remember, at the end of the day, man, you know, sometimes it's good to sit back and remember these people that you crossed paths with in life. You know, especially these guys that are doing life and all day, they're forgotten about. People forget about them, except for their families and their very close friends. Well, I consider him a very close friend who will never be forgotten. Like I said, he's written in my book of life, homie. Forever, you know, I'm indebted for a lot of the things that he showed me. I'm indebted for being able to actually function with a real one. That was a real homie. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle and struggle and strive for what I truly believe in. Respects to the homie Baz at Sacra, 36th Street, Barrio Franklone Boulevard. Bang, bang.